President Biden's popularity has certainly seen better days. While he has been recovering from COVID, a heckler had this to say to First Lady Jill Biden last week. Watch.
Your husband's the worst president we've ever had. You owe us gas money. You owe us gas money.
The price of gas has soared since the president first took office, and his poll numbers have plummeted. Americans obviously still feeling that pain at the pump. A new Quinnipiac poll puts the president's approval at an all-time low, just 31%. And other recent polls show maybe Americans don't want Biden to run in 2024. And it seems neither do many in the media. Headline after headline telling the president not to seek a second term. Just the latest, an op-ed in the Washington Post with this headline, "Quit Joe, Quit." It goes on to say, quote, President Biden should announce now that he will not run for re-election in 2024. He should not ask the Democratic Party or the nation to assume the risk of a second four-year term that would begin after he reached the age of 82. Laura, I think it has so much more to do with everything we listed before the age rather than the age itself, which is his utmost failures.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could just look at Joe Biden. You see that there is a disconnect. He's not the same as his predecessor in many ways. We don't have enough time to discuss all of that. But the suggestion by the Washington Post, of all places, that Joe Biden should not seek a second term. I mean, they were some of his biggest supporters, don't forget, in 2020. But their suggestion is that he should just get it all out there because everybody already knows that he's probably not going to run. There's a lot of chatter in the Democrat Party. And instead of focusing on Joe Biden not running, possibly, they could just focus on these midterms, which they're very, very nervous about on the Democrat side. Look, I think Joe Biden served his purpose. He was sort of put there to do the bidding of the far left radicals in the Democrat Party. He has achieved that in many ways. We're talking about the high gas prices that are ultimately they're hoping are going to force people to get electric cars. And now they're ready for the next one. He's done. They're done with him. Move on. Even the Washington Post thinks so.
That's interesting because he called himself the transition president. And John, to Laura's point, you know, Americans care about what's going on in their families. We care about what's going on in our communities and with our paychecks. And so as part of these polls, 28% said they approve of Biden's handling of the economy, 66% disapprove, and the biggest concern right now for Americans is inflation. We're at a 40-year high of 9.1%. So that's why one of the hecklers said to his wife, Biden owes me gas money.
Right.
He owes us a lot more than that.
I mean, what he's done has stepped so far outside the bounds of political differences that now it's hitting everybody on daily things that they deal with. Gas prices don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. Mm-hmm. When you go and buy a dozen eggs and you're like, how much are these eggs? And then you're going to Costco and you're going, you know what, I'm going to buy the big bulk stuff. That affects everybody too. So listen, he said he was going to bring unity. I saw the poll earlier this month that said 88% of Americans said that we're on the wrong track in this country. I mean, that's quite a feat to get 88% of Americans to agree on anything. But Joe did it. Good job, Joe. I mean, he did bring unity, and we're unified that we don't like what's going on.
And Harris, part of the argument in that WAPO article said that they deem his lack of decision, or the fact that he might run again, that's a distraction. And the argument was, well, we need a president that can deal with these urgent matters now. But isn't that what a president should do all the time, no matter what, regardless of the future?
Yes. And to accept the fact that his wife thinks that he hasn't had an easy go of it because there have been all these crises. You've got to accept the fact that that was part of the job, and you also need to come clean about the fact that you caused some of it. Mm-hmm. Can we put the "Quit Joe, Quit" back on the big wall? Because there was a section of that I specifically wanted to point to. And it's this idea that if he says now that he's not going to run for a second term, that can save the midterm elections for the Democrats. That is so untrue. That's beyond all the news that's fit to print. But I think that's the New York Times, right? That's not the Post.
The old gray lady. The
Anyway,
New York Times.
It exceeds the amount of time that you get, or space that you get, to put things that aren't true. That's not what's going to save them. It's all the policies that have to change between now and November 8th. It's 106 days away. That's not going to happen.
Mm-mm. Right. So, Kennedy, okay, so to these points, if the policies are not working and the media and his own party and the American public are strongly screaming, we don't like this, why hasn't that message been received to him? A year and a half in, he's utterly failing in the eyes of every institution that analyzes him, and yet it seems to not have penetrated to his brain yet?
That is such a good question. And I know it's really hard to admit when you failed, especially when you're a politician and your job is to sell yourself and your job is to get people to like you. And all anyone's doing is admitting they have total buyer's remorse. You know, they were sold Joe Biden by the Democrat establishment as the savior of the nation, the person who could heal the great Trumpian divide. And all he has done is plunge this economy into this Dante's Inferno when we're going level after level, deeper and deeper as more prices spike. You know, housing, gas, people can't get mortgages now. And on top of that, he's got all these foreign policy failures. He doesn't know what he's doing in Ukraine. He's appeasing China. He doesn't have an answer for anything. And when it hits close to home, people are like, yeah, I'm done with you. I need something else. But they will never be able to admit that. And to your point, there's no way he can pull the plug right now, because all that does is unleash this firestorm of people jockeying for 2024.
100%.
Democrats who are going to take all the oxygen out of the room and not make anything better.
And it could make it worse, because then Democrats would not be actually concentrating on any way, shape, or form to get some bipartisan relief for Americans come November if the House and potentially even the Senate were to flip. I mean, nobody's willing to do their jobs within the swamp then at all, because they'll be, oh, I think I'll run for the seat. I think I'll run for the seat.
And the message that keeps coming out of this White House is totally tone deaf. It's ignoring all the things we've talked about and continues to try to paint a rosy picture. Oh no, nothing to see here, everything's fine. We see a tweet from the DNC recently showing rosy times between the vice president and the president, when all of us know that's not probably the case at all.